Welcome to the CEO Crowd Show. I'm your host and coach, Rebecca Nesbitt, and today we're talking all about niche or niche. I'm going to say niche, replace it in your mind should you say it differently. And we're going to cover the one thing that nobody is telling you because I do believe sometimes the truth does not work in marketing. And we're going to cover how you actually will choose your niche, mistakes not to make, not to get caught out by, a practice that could change not only your niche, but your entire life. And like I said, that one thing that nobody is telling you. So it's a jam-packed episode. But what I will say is if you're someone who is an entrepreneur, the likelihood is that you don't want to put yourself in a box and you don't want to be told what to do. So please take this with so much flexibility because no one gets to tell you what to do in your business because your business is your business. These are just some guides. So, like I said, nobody likes to be put in a box. And that's what niching down can really feel like. It feels like you have to choose one thing. And what happens then is that the fear creeps in because rarely are there any business problems. They're usually only personal ones. You start to think, well, what if I get it wrong? What if people don't buy? What if I get bored? What if I miss out on opportunities because I'm not showing up for this specific person that actually really needs my help? Because I know you could probably help everybody, right? We all possess the ability, no matter what your role is, we all possess the ability to help another human in some way. I truly believe that. And it's clear to me that if you're here, that you care very deeply and could do so many things, like so many things. So let's make this a little bit easier because this is what they aren't telling you is what most people don't want to hear when you're trying to choose a niche because you think you have to choose one. You don't want to, but you think you have to. No one wants to hear that niches are developed. They're very rarely chosen. You might not get it right first time, but you have to take the step past choosing the niche or you're just going to stay stuck. And it's going to be the perfect excuse because there are so many entrepreneurs out there using it. So, what you start with is not how it will end. And I can say that as someone who's had, I believe, upwards of 15 different niches at this current point. And I can't guarantee that in the future my niche will be the same. I actually just refined it recently. So it's always evolving, which is actually the most exciting thing because you get the best of both worlds. You make a lax decision on a group of people that you will serve, but you haven't had to choose one thing. You can still retain the flexibility and the fluidity that comes with your personal choice because you're not being put in a box. You're just making one decision that will lead to another decision. This is not the end game. But you do have to start somewhere. So let's start with two ways that you can look at niche, because I think sometimes this can be really, really confusing because we think that the niche is just this group of people. But sometimes when you'll hear niche spoken about, it's about choosing a specialty. So the first way that we can look at niche is as a specialty. It's talking around, not about one thing. It's talking about one particular area of study. So a great example of this would be we have a few CEO Crowd members that are currently in human design. So you would talk around human design, and that becomes the niche almost. And it's anyone who is attracted to human design, right? And the other way you can look at niche is choosing a person to sell to. This is when you talk about one unifying characteristic. So, one characteristic that links a group of people together. So, if we stayed on this vein of human design, even if you've never heard of what human design is, there are different types within human design. So, you might speak to very specifically, you might speak to manifestors in human design. So, then you're speaking to one group of people. There is a unifying characteristic. So should you choose to choose your niche through specialty, so like we were saying, you choose human design as an example, then questions to think about, and we'll put these in the description so that you can use them as journaling prompts to your heart's content, my friend, because this is something that no one else can tell you. You really have to decide this for yourself. You're a business owner, you've got this, and you don't need someone else to tell you what you can and should do, right? That is absolutely your job. Your number one job is to make decisions for your business. That's it. Decisions for your business and help people with those decisions. It's very simple. So, if you are choosing the specialty, then let's think about things like what is the message that you want to share with the world and why is that important? What matters most to you about what you do? What difference are you called to make in the world? What are you more knowledgeable about than most people? Right? Most people are not coaches and gurus that you look up to in the same industry. Give yourself some credit. It's, if you stop people on the street, do they know? So that is when you're looking at specialty. Like we said, that's when you're looking at human design, for example. That's when you're talking around one thing. And then these questions were prompts for you to go a little bit deeper into almost the why behind you do it. And in that, you'll find people that are resonant, and then you'll start to see themes within those people. If you are choosing the person first, as opposed to the specialty first, then you're considering some different questions. You're considering questions like, who have you helped in the past? That in the act of helping them, you were lit up and so excited. And how were you then helping them? It could be, what conversations have you had lately that you had just wished went on for hours? Who's that friend that you just cannot leave because you just keep talking about the same subject and it's so intricate, right? Whether it's business or Taylor Swift, I'm in personally. Another question is, what do you deeply discuss with friends? Like I said, who is that friend that you could just keep talking to and keep talking to? And what are those themes? What are the things that you talk about? And then there's also, who needs your help? So there are two different ways to look at niche, and there are two ways to kind of decide on it that you can dive into with a few of those prompts. And you don't have to even write it down. If you're not a journaler, if you're like, oh gosh, another person telling me to journal and I have so much resistance and I don't want to, don't. But just sit with the question and at least think about it so you can start to make some decisions. Like I said, this show was really set up for you to kind of start making that decision on what your niche could be. And if you're still on the struggle bus, then let's place focus on the reason that your business exists. The reason that any business exists is to solve a problem for someone else. That is the main purpose of every business, whether it is a plumber fixing your pipes so that you can have running water, or a graphic designer selling stickers that say shine bright with the image of the sun so that you feel like you're making a statement with your positive energy, right? Things that you may help with could be literally anything. And that's why it's so challenging to start to bring it down to one. But you can do things like helping people to plant a garden so they can save money on food costs, or helping people fix their money mindset so they can get out of debt, coaching people to have a positive attitude and stop self-sabotaging, teaching people to homeschool their kids without feeling like they're doing it wrong, networking with female entrepreneurs so they feel like they're less alone in this crazy online space. There's so much that you could do. The question is, what do you want to do? And what problem do you actually want to solve for people? Because just helping someone, like I could drop my pen on the floor and you could come by to my house and you could pick it up and hand it to me, and that's helping me because then I don't have to bend over after going to CrossFit and being in insurmountable amounts of pain. So that could be extremely helpful. But is that what you want to do? You want to go run around people's houses and pick up their pens? Probably not. Like, I don't know of a business that does that. I don't know if that would be valuable, but there's probably an area that you want to help people in, whether it's with their mindset, whether it's with their organizing their pantry, whether it's how they dress, whether it's how they do their makeup, but whether it is like a specific product that they need. There's a specific way that you want to help people. So just helping people isn't enough. It's not going to cut it in the world of especially online marketing because people aren't clear. So we need a little bit more clarity. And it doesn't have to be the same. It won't be the same in a year. That's likely. Your niche probably will not be the same in a year because not only will you change, your niche will develop too. So we're just looking for this starting point. And then after you have that starting point, before you fully launch into business doing this new thing and you get a website and you change all of your messaging and you've done everything to change everything around and then you've realized, oh no, I don't want to do it and you're too far in, because that's the next fear, is once you make this decision, then you can do all of these things that you've been told to do in the business world to look like you have a successful business, right? Before you do any of that, test it. Just test the niche, right? It can be a social media story with a poll. It can be a picture related to what you do, or it can just be, a photo of your desk and you can have a caption that says, "Do you or someone you know need help with improving their nutrition?" Question mark. And then the poll could say, "Yes, not right now, but in the past, not right now, but in the future, nope." Right? Or you could message 5 friends, "Hey, Jeannie," right? Put their name in. "Do you or someone you know need help with finding a publisher," for example. Or you can just do some research online and you can see, are other people doing it? Is there proof of concept via competition? So I know that this will work. And if the answer is yes to any of these ways to test, then you just found your starting niche. If not, back to the drawing board. All right. And when it comes to the mistakes that people then typically make, right? Because we've gone through like, here's ways to choose, here's ways to test, and then what are the things that could really take you out of the game? Okay. Mistakes to avoid would be choosing something too narrow. So if you're doing all of those like ideal client avatar sheets and you know what your ideal client eats for lunch on a Tuesday and you haven't even launched your business yet, that's just too much. It's just too much information. Like, you don't need that depth of information. By that point, you're truly just wasting time. That's something that you might find out, right? That's something that randomly you may develop over time. Like every Tuesday, they're probably getting fast food for lunch. Then that could be something that you develop over time and that you understand over time. And it's just this random theme that just seems to occur with your clients. That's totally possible. But to know that before you even start is way too much information and you're just holding yourself back. At that point, the niche is not the problem, something else is going on, right? And that could be a myriad of things. It can be, I know that a lot of people are like, it's the fear of failure, it's the fear of success, it's the fear of putting yourself out there. There's some kind of fear, and it's not the niche that's the problem. And that's where the inner work comes in, my friend. The other side of the spectrum, maybe you're leaving the problem that you solve a little bit too broad. So the customer really doesn't know why they'd buy from you, right? So maybe you messaged your friend to test your niche and you're like, "Hey, Grace, do you or someone you know need help with health?" And it's like, okay, well, maybe. What do you mean in terms of health? Because that's such a broad spectrum. So it needs to be narrow enough that you can ask some very detailed questions around it, but it needs to be broad enough that you have a lot of wiggle room. So I know that that can sound quite challenging, right? But what we want it to be is, from your niche, you are able to find this unifying characteristic that bonds a group of people together, and they will have this particular problem. And it's just one problem that you're looking for. They will probably have many problems. There are probably many problems that you can solve. You're just looking for one to start. That's it. All right. So the finale, the grand finale, my friends, if this still all just feels like I just don't know. I don't know how to make this decision. I've journaled, I've asked the questions, I've tested the niches. Oh, it's so hard. Then if your niche is like literally keeping you up at night, because this is how dramatic it can genuinely be, then like I said a moment ago, I do believe that sometimes at that point, there's something on the inside that's holding us back. And something that has really helped me when it comes to many things, but niche included, was to make sure that something felt like it was super aligned with me and my expertise. I had to write my life story. And this may be a huge task. And I am talking, I put hours into writing, hours upon hours, more than 10 hours into writing what I remembered about my life. It may be a huge and massively cathartic task, but after you're done, and even sometimes when you're part the way in, you can start to see themes that have taken place in your life and problems that you've overcome. And then what you can decide is which is the most important one for you and the most important for you to help others with, because then it's deeply personal. That's when you're really starting with why, as Simon Sinek would say, right? And like I said, it's a huge piece of work. You don't need to do as much as that. But if there's not this carefree attitude of testing and trying, and it feels like it has to come from something deeper, then put the work into the life story instead of just sitting and saying, I don't know what my niche is, I don't know how to find it, and randomly Googling or finding podcasts and listening for, 30 minutes to someone talk about how you can find it. No one else has the answer. You have the answer. You do know. And I know that it feels like you don't, but you know exactly where to start and you can do this. And if you need a place to test or to talk through your niche, then come to networking. If you don't have those 5 friends that you can message and say, hey, do you know anyone that's experiencing this? Do you think this would work as a business? If you don't have those people in your back pocket, then let's get them in your back pocket. Come to CEO Crowd Networking. We network every Monday, and we'd love to invite you to the next available event. The link is in the description because, like I said, you do not have to do this alone. Yes, you will have to make these decisions for yourself, but you don't have to be in this journey alone. That's what we stand for. That's our niche here at the CEO Crowd. So until next week, CEO, we will be over here believing in you and knowing, deeply knowing that you've got this and that you'll find your niche.